Hello, and welcome to Stuff and Things, where I like to discuss stuff and things. I'm your good friend Bradley Victor, and today we have a review of this. What is this? Well, it is a Great Eastern Cutlery Northfield Unexcelled number 78 American Jack in cranberry red jig bone. Sounds like a mouthful, but let's get going here. You might remember a couple weeks ago I had a video in which I compared this knife to this knife, which is a case trapper. Both knives made in 2014, and that video was pretty much just showing the relative quality of the two knives, and my conclusion was that though this knife was much cheaper, the case, still good value for the money and not a bad knife at all, but this knife, the Great Eastern Cutlery Northfield Unexcelled number 78 American Jack and cranberry red jig bone, was much superior. Of course, it's also twice as much. But let's get into this. What is this? This is a traditional slip joint pocket knife. It has jigged bone handle covers, as you can see here. Brass rivets keeping the whole thing together. It's got a pinned shield, not epoxied in like the case knives. It's actually pinned in. It has brass liners with metal back springs. I'm assuming that's 1095 steel for the back springs. Nickel silver bolsters, pinched and fluted. Very nice. 1095 carbon steel blades. That is not a stainless steel, which means that they can rust if you're not careful. These have a nice patina, which has developed after almost 3 weeks of use, carrying around in my pocket. It has a 3 3/4 inch closed length. The main clip blade is 3 inches long. Also has a 2.5 inch pen blade, which is quite nice. Made in Titusville, Pennsylvania. You can see on the tang stamp there, if it'll focus in, it says Titusville Iron Works. So any Great Eastern Cutlery knife you have that has Titusville Iron Works stamped on the tang means that that's a 1095 blade. On this side we just have Great Eastern Cutlery Northfield. On this knife, on the tang stamps, we have Northfield Unexcelled, made in the USA. And here we have the actual model number. So we have 78, which is the pattern, the American Jack pattern. 1 is the style of the main blade, which is a clip blade. 2 is the number of blades. 14 is the year of manufacture. So this knife was made in March of 2014. It's a new pattern that was introduced by Great Eastern Cutlery this year. It was available in several different handle materials. This was my favorite, this cranberry red jig bone, but they also had some stag. I think they made some in the Titiute line in ebony and some that were kind of acrylics. For those of you who do not know, the Northfield line, which this is, the Unexcelled, is sort of the higher end or highest end Great Eastern Cutlery line. There's also just Great Eastern Cutlery, which has stainless steel blades and is more maybe just for collectors. Then there's the Titiute line, which I guess is supposed to be geared more towards work knives. Still the same quality of craftsmanship, but the materials are maybe not quite as fancy as these Northfield knives. And they also have their farm and field range, which feature synthetic handles, Delrin, things like that, more kind of work knives. Just showing you this thing of beauty right now. Like I showed you, this 3-inch clip blade, you see the grind on this thing is absolutely gorgeous. You can see this really nice swedge here, very sharp tip, point, long pole there instead of just a nail nick. Absolutely gorgeous. Just amazing craftsmanship. And this pen blade, very nice as well. I just love the shape of that pen blade. I don't know what, I mean, it's a basic pen blade, I guess, but it just really appeals to me. This knife, when I first got it, the back springs were very, 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 very hard. It was a really hard pull. It's worked in a little bit since I've been using it, and I've oiled it a little bit. But you can still hear that. Listen to that. Bam. Bam, that's some walk and talk, as they say. Really positive stop there. Absolutely no blade wiggle whatsoever, neither up and down or side to side. Quality of this knife is impeccable. Absolutely flush everywhere. No gaps whatsoever between the back springs and the liners and the covers. This case knife, you can see there's a gap right there. Still a nice knife, but not anywhere near the quality that this knife has. This knife comes with half stops. You can see there, the tang is squared off. So when it gets to the halfway position, it will stop. It's basically a safety feature, so if you're cutting and the blade gets knocked this way, your fingers are here, you want to make sure, well, I almost cut myself. You want to make sure that it doesn't cut your fingers off. I actually cut myself earlier today with this knife, so you can see. Yeah, pretty bad cut. It's very sharp. Did not come very sharp, I do have to say. That's one thing that this knife and the case knife had in common. Neither of them came very sharp out of the box. But this one, I spent a lot of time working on it with the Spyderco Sharp Maker, reprofiled it to a 20-degree bevel. It now has a very sharp mirror edge on there. Obviously sharp enough to cut flesh. So let that be a lesson to you kids out there. Practice proper knife safety. I was actually trying to clean the blade with a paper towel and some alcohol, and it cut right through the paper towel and right through my thumb. Ow! Anyway, half stop is supposed to provide some measure of safety. Like we said, nice jigged bone handles. I love this jigging pattern, this kind of parallel. Beautiful. It's got a pinned shield. I don't know if you can see the pins, but it's not held in by epoxy. It's actually held in by metal pins, so that's not going anywhere. Pinched and fluted nickel-silver bolsters. Completely flush to the bone handles. Absolutely wonderful. Perfect knife. This is the kind of thing where you purchase this, and I bought this not to collect, not to just sit in the box, but I bought this to use. But it's that kind of thing where form and function meet so perfectly that it's a joy to carry this knife around. I've been carrying this, like I said, for a couple weeks. You can see how scratched up the nickel silver's getting. Back springs are all scratched up. The blades have a nice patina on them from cutting meat, cutting apples, doing some whittling, cutting boxes, opening mail. All the chores that you might need a pocket knife for, this baby's been doing for me. So I bought this to use, but it is such a pleasure to use because of the craftsmanship, because of the way it's made. I have this in my pocket, and I find myself putting my hand in my pocket and then just handling it while it's in my pocket. Just running my fingers over it is just so satisfying to me. It's like a little jewel in your pocket. Absolutely wonderful. And the ergonomics of it are actually really good. I know a lot of people who might use modern folding knives with locking blades that have, cutouts and everything. This works really well. This is an old design. They've been around for, well over 100 years, this design, this kind of knife. But just look at that. It fits really well. I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'2". I have pretty damn big hands. But this works. I can get a 4-finger grip. This has a nice, I don't know if you call that a choil, where you can put your finger on there. And if you want, you can kind of choke up on the blade. I'm actually a little gun shy here because I cut myself today. I don't want to do it again. But if you're doing some whittling, it just works really well ergonomically. Quite like it. And it's safe, relatively. It's not going to fold. It's not going to fold on you. The spring is so strong. It's about as strong as you can get with a slip joint knife, but not so strong that it's unusable. Great Eastern Cutlery is a company that was founded in, I believe, 2006. One of the presidents was a former employee of Queen Cutlery, and he bought up machining, kind of old machining, and decided that he wanted to make traditional slip joint knives the way they were made in kind of the heyday of American pocket knives, which was around the turn of the 20th century into the 20s, 30s, using a lot of the same old patterns, and I think he's really succeeded. Aesthetically, this knife is amazing, and quality-wise, it's amazing. They have a really good guarantee on these knives. If anything's wrong with it, send it back and they'll fix it. You can also just see the attention to detail in the way they package the knives. It doesn't come in a box. It comes in this little cardboard tube. The graphics on there are sort of reminiscent of the era in which these knives were popular. And now it's going to be hard to open because of my mutilated thumb, but open it up. Bubble wrap to keep the knife secure. Comes packaged in this wax paper. Smells of metal and machine tools. Very nice. So if you are a collector, you could keep your knife in that, and that should keep it free of corrosion if you have it nice and oiled up. Packaged in there. What else can I say about this knife? It's a little spendy. I think you can still get this knife in this configuration with this handle material. I think that TSAknives.com and KnifeShipFree.com both still have this. It's around $100. So that may seem like quite a bit of money, but to me, it's well worth it just in terms of quality and the fact that I'm carrying something around which I enjoy so much. I enjoy using it. I enjoy looking at it. It's worth it to me. I don't want to spend, well, you know, okay. I spent less money. I spent about half of the money on this case knife. And it's completely functional and it works really well, and I'm perfectly happy with this knife. I use this when I'm at work mostly. But there's a difference with a knife like this. It is a joy to behold. It is a thing of beauty. I love it. Like I said, I don't collect knives, and so when I buy a knife, I buy it to use, and I don't need a ton of different pocket knives because I will use my knife. I will have my knife and I will use my knife. But after buying this, I think I might have to go and get a couple more Great Eastern Cutlery knives. Maybe just rotate them throughout the week. So basically, in closing, Great Eastern Cutlery, Northfield Unexcelled, number 78 American Jack in cranberry red jig bone, comes highly recommended by the Stuff and Things channel. Check them out. Thanks for watching.